Populism is an investment only on fear and worry about the future. I believe in politics, I believe in the people, I don't believe in populism, and I don't believe this is the future of our institutions.
Hi, I'm Ian Bremmer, and welcome to the GZERO World Podcast. I'm host of the weekly show GZERO World on public television. In this podcast, we share extended versions of the big interviews from that show. This week, I take the show to Italy and talk to two people leading opposite sides of that country's deep political divide, former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi, who fell from power in late 2016, and Beppe Grillo, founder of the upstart five-star movement, which surged to first place in Italy's elections this spring. Today, I'll ask them about the current state of Italian politics and where they think the country is headed in the future. Let's get to it.
The GZERO World is brought to you by our founding sponsor, First Republic. First Republic, a private bank and wealth management company. Imagine a bank without teller lines, where your banker knows your name and its most prized currency is extraordinary client service. Hear directly from First Republic's clients by visiting firstrepublic.com.
In Rome, the past is always present, but talk to the locals hanging around the city's many ancient ruins and you will get the sense, as I did, of the new politics taking hold in Italy today. Two particularly prominent locals, representing opposite poles of this political divide, are former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi, who fell from power in late 2016, and Beppe Grillo, founder of the upstart five-star movement, which surged to first place in Italy's elections this spring. Renzi, who resigned after holding a failed constitutional referendum in late 2016, came into office as a reformer, but with ties to the center-left establishment. He was a staunch advocate of European integration and close friend to G7 allies like Angela Merkel and Barack Obama. But it was exactly that pro-EU and openly globalist outlook that made Renzi very vulnerable, not a surprise, to the populism of Beppe and his five-star movement. Earlier this month, I traveled to Rome to talk to both Renzi and Grillo. I wanted to understand better these two very different approaches to solving Italy's decades-old economic and political problems. And I also wanted to learn what Italy's current political turmoil could tell us about similar upheavals happening throughout Europe and even in the United States.
Former Prime Minister Renzi, lovely to be with you.
It's a pleasure.
So tell me, what has happened in your country?
I need 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe 2 days. In the last election, in 2018, we lost very clearly an important election. And for the first time in Europe, maybe, a populist government led a very important country in Europe. So I think now, for us, it's a very bad news.
They're not just winning in Italy. They're gaining force in a lot of places, both in this part of the world as well as across the ocean. Are you surprised?
In Italy, if you look at the polls today, Salvini is very popular. Mm-hmm. But I believe populism is not always popular. Maybe today. Maybe for 1 day, maybe for 1 week, maybe for 1 month, maybe for 1 year. But I believe this country is different respect to the message gave in the last month from the new government. This country is a country of migrants. Our grandfather left Italy to live in USA, in Belgium, in France, in Germany, as migrants. And our culture is a culture of welcome. If we continue to give a message of fear, the consequence is terrible, is the construction of physical walls, but also the mental walls.
In the next 5-10 years, given what we're seeing not just in Italy, but across so much of the developed world, do you think our institutions need to change? Does Europe need to change? Does NATO need to change?
I lost my chair, I lost my job for the idea to change institutions.
The political referendum back in December 2016, your referendum to reform the political system, its institutions here in Italy?
I believe in the institutional changes, in the institutional reforms, despite the bad news of results of referendum. I remain absolutely of the idea about the necessity in Italy. So with the new world, the institutions have to change everywhere. The real question is, we have two different ideas. There is an idea we think, okay, the future is populism. I think the future is not populism. I'm very optimistic. I think we need time to show what is populism, for example, in Italy, a list of promises impossible to achieve. And the future is not populism. For me, the future is politics. Politics is the way for the people to come back, to change the world, and to make the difference. Populism is an investment only on fear and worry about the future. I believe in politics, I believe in the people, I don't believe in populism, and I don't believe this is the future of our institutions.
Matteo Renzi, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Beppe Grillo, the eccentric founder of Italy's anti-establishment five-star movement, was just a few years ago in exile from Italian television for his often offensive sense of humor. I didn't see the issue, but the movement that he founded surged to victory in national elections this spring, with five-star winning the largest vote share of any party in Italy. It is now in a governing coalition with the ultra-right Northern League Party. But unlike the League, which focuses on a conservative anti-immigrant message, the five-star movement is hard to place on the political spectrum. It promises to solve many of Italy's problems through a cyber-utopian platform of direct democracy, universal basic income, and infrastructure spending. Grillo stepped down from party leadership before the elections, but he remains its spiritual guide. I started off by asking him how it was that he came this far. And one thing was clear right off the bat: the old comedian is still in charge.
And I'm here with Beppe Grillo, who is the comedian and founder of the five-star movement here in Italy. Beppe, how did you get here? I mean, it's a kind of a unique moment in Italian politics, right? No one would have expected that your party could have gone from nothing to 30% in the polls. Explain what you think happened.
Quindi adesso far parte il movimento.
The movement has had this incredible expansion in a short time. Through the web, through an operating system that we've called Rousseau, which is an operating system where democracy starts from the bottom. Any person can subscribe to this system for free, and it enables people to have their own experience as part of passing laws, voting in regional elections, voting for the president. Anyone can enter and play a part in politics. This is the idea behind the movement, to provide new tools to citizens who, through a home computer or an iPhone, can determine important things for their country. It's tools that we want to provide, not from above, but from below.
A lot of people say that this direct democracy is really a party that's very controlled by just a couple of people in terms of the outcome. How do you respond to that?
Well, we are at the beginning of something. The world is changing. Even this operating system, getting people involved from their homes, holding several referendums every week, it's an idea that must evolve. We started from scratch. We're at 20,000, 30,000, 70,000. We now have 150,000 registered members. Maybe only half of them vote, but it's a work in progress.
So the institutions, the political institutions as they exist in Italy right now, not just the politicians, but the institutions, the political process, you think needs to go away?
You have to realize that democracy is outdated. What is democracy? Less than 50% of the people turn up to vote. When you get 30% of 50%, you only have 15%. It's minorities today that manage democracy. Democracy will be replaced, potentially with random drawing. We may get rid of voting altogether. I don't know, but I think we could draw one of the two chambers of parliament at random. proportionally according to age, income, north and south, male and female, so that the people can be truly represented.
What you see right now in Italy is not just in Italy. It's happening across Eastern Europe. It's happening in Western Europe. It happened with Brexit. It's happening in my United States. Is there a commonality in these movements that you see in this growth of populism, or are they different in every country?
Absolutely. Today, economic globalization means that nations and states no longer count for anything. Today, about 70% of public goods in Italy are managed by multinationals, which are 2,000 kilometers away. Today, with a tweet, as I've said before, you can change the life of a country in a fraction of a second from the other side of the world. We're going back to the city-states with the disappearance of nations and borders.
On Europe, it felt to me that the early days of the five-star movement, one big piece was we do not want to be a part of the Eurozone. And that certainly is not the approach that your government has right now. Why the change?
Il movimento ha diverse anime.
The movement has different souls. It's a movement. Also, Casaleggio and I, who founded it, we had different ideas. We proposed a referendum on the euro. Let the Italian people decide whether to stay in the euro. Not in Europe, but in the euro. A consultative referendum so that we can have a conversation for a year about a plan B. We don't have a plan B in case something goes wrong. I'll say again, with a tweet, you can change the political and economic situation of the world in a split second. You need to have a plan B on the currency. I'm sure Germany and France have a plan B. I didn't say leave the euro. I said to let the Italian people decide with a referendum.
Do you personally still support a referendum on the euro, in or out for Italy? Yes or no?
Un referendum, io sarò sempre a favore.
I am always in favor of referendums, of the referendum as an instrument. I am always in favor on any subject. The most democratic method I know is having an online referendum from my iPhone on all subjects. We need this technology to be available. This is the soul of the five-star movement. To provide tools and then to be biodegradable. It is a biodegradable movement. Once citizens become more aware and they have the knowledge and the willingness to take care of their lives, the movement no longer has any reason to exist.
How do young people differ politically from old guys like you?
They differ in the sense that they need a narrative. Why has the left collapsed in Italy? What's the reason? They have no narrative. They don't tell stories.
I have to ask you what you think about my president, Donald Trump.
Look, at the beginning, I was a bit shocked. I read his book. I had the perception that he would win because he had this confrontation with the global press, which attacked him, which is what happened to us, too. The more they attacked us, the more it made us popular. It's a strange thing. I don't know how it's going to end. They are Americans. The American, intellectually, has the dollar in mind, the dollar as a religion.
Beppe Grillo, thank you very much.
Grazie a te che sei venuto.
Fantastic. That's our show this week. We'll be right back here next week with U.S. Senator Marco Rubio. Don't miss it. In the meantime, stay up to date with all things GZERO by heading to gzeromedia.com and downloading the GZERO World Podcast. There's no money in it for you, but it will make you a better person. See you next week.
The GZERO World is brought to you by our founding sponsor, First Republic. First Republic, a private bank and wealth management company. Imagine a bank without teller lines, where your banker knows your name and its most prized currency is extraordinary client service. Hear directly from First Republic's clients by visiting firstrepublic.com.
You're listening to the GZERO World with Ian Bremmer podcast, your weekly geopolitical deep dive into the world's biggest news stories, featuring in-depth conversations with global leaders and newsmakers. To get more of GZERO's insights on global politics every morning, sign up for our free newsletter, GZERO Daily, at gzeromedia.com.